Welcome back to Turning Hard Times to Good Times. I'm back here with Bob Moriarty, and we're picking up on this little booklet called Common Sense 2.0, which you can buy at Amazon just for a couple of dollars. It's very cheap. I picked up a copy myself, and I would suggest you do that. I have no idea who the author is, but in reading it, it seems like there's a lot of things in there that are touching on and explaining why we're going through some very difficult times. I think just starting to go through some very difficult times, as Bob just suggested. Well, Bob, when we went to break, you talked about the military-industrial complex. I remember when Eisenhower left the White House, when he left the presidency in his farewell address, he talked about he was fearful of the military-industrial complex. And as a general who served and was a key part in World War II, he certainly saw the suffering and the heartache and the sorrow that comes from war, from killing people. The chapter 1 of Common Sense 2.0 says our military became the enemy. So most Americans believe that, we see these courageous soldiers that go off to war. There are heartbreaking commercials to try to help these soldiers and their families. The men go off and they have their legs blown off or something, or they don't come back at all, and the mother is there with a number of children to take care of. And so we're the propaganda, or at least the view, is these are very wonderful people, and I do believe they are. But how could it be that our military has become the enemy, Bob, when in fact everything that we are being told is it's our friend. It's here to save us and protect us and make life better for us?
Well, what happens is we're lied to constantly. And you got to segment. When I say the military is the enemy, I'm not talking about the guys who are going off to Syria or going out to Lebanon or going off to Afghanistan. I'm talking about the military-industrial complex. The book is fascinating because it's got stuff I never knew. Eisenhower wasn't the only general who was anti-war. Douglas MacArthur said in 1951, our country is now geared to an arms economy which was bred in an artificially induced psychosis of war hysteria and nurtured upon an incessant propaganda of fear. Now, for the generals to say that, first of all, they understood it, and they were trying to warn us. Now, you are the perfect guy to interview me, okay? I spent 2 years in heavy combat. I was not a non-combatant. I was a volunteer. I was in constant combat for about 20 months. I flew a record number of missions for any Marine in any war in fixed-wing aircraft. I was not a pacifist. I was a warrior. I am still a warrior. I would fight again today, but to defend my country, not to go kill people who have done nothing to us. And that's what we're doing now. So as a practical matter, I don't want to argue against war from a moral point of view. You could take one side. Me, as an 18-year-old, would take the opposite side. But let's look at the practical aspect. The very best reason to be against war is we can't afford it. Every military industrial complex in history, the Romans, the Spanish, the French, the British, the Russians, they collapsed their economies because they spent all the money. Some of the stuff in this book is just absolutely mind-bending. Let me read some stuff to you.
Yeah, sure.
The Navy decided they were going to build these new class of destroyers. The destroyers would fire a 155 millimeter projectile up to 60 miles. Now, that is bloody amazing.
Yeah, right? 60 miles.
The 5-inch guns and the 8-inch guns off of destroyers, cruisers, and they had about a 15 or 20 kilometer range. A gun that can fire for 60 miles, that's unbelievable. There is a slight problem. When they did the planning, they guessed the shells would cost $50,000 a piece. Well, because the military-industrial complex, the price went up, the shells were $800,000 a piece. You pull the trigger, you just spent $1 million. They were going to have 32 of these vessels. They ended up building 3 at a cost of $23 billion. And then they had the USS Gerald Ford, the newest aircraft carrier. They designed the toilet system on that to be similar to the toilet system on an aircraft, but what they didn't understand, and the contractor didn't bother telling them, is you've got to flush the system with acid on a periodic basis. So every couple of months, they're spending $400,000 just flushing the toilet system. The catapult system doesn't work the way it's supposed to. The elevator system for bringing weapons up to the top of the ship so they can load on the aircraft, it doesn't function at all. But that is the worst program. The most expensive procurement program in all of world history is the Lockheed Martin F-35. It is a $1.5 trillion fiasco. Now, I could talk to you about fighter aircraft, but how much do you know about fighter aircraft?
Virtually nothing.
I was a fighter pilot. I was an F-4 pilot. When I was 20 years old, I was flying the hottest fighter in the world. So if you want to know something about fighters, I'd be a good guy to talk to. The F-35 is an utter disaster. It can be tracked. As soon as they open their weapons bay, they just light up on radar. It's very short range, which means you've got to move your aircraft carrier closer to the enemy. And the Russians and the Chinese and the Iranians have silkworm missiles that can sink an aircraft carrier from something like 300 or 400 kilometers away. We have, it's not even a question of spending money on weapon systems. The weapon systems don't work. And that's what we get at end of empire. The Romans did the same thing. The British did the same thing.
So history is pretty well documented there. And it's so that it doesn't work, but somebody's making a lot of money. Somebody's making a lot of money, Bob, aren't they? Selling that defective material, those defective machines and so forth. So, and somebody in Congress is voting for them and is allocating money, taxpayer money and printing press money for it.
Do you know what the word shoddy means?
I think I know what it means.
Tell me.
It's defective. It's not very well put together, not very good.
Okay. During the Civil War, somebody made boots for the Union Army, and they were called shoddy boots. And they're shoddy because they fell apart. And that's exactly what we're doing now. But let's talk about Wesley Clark. Right after 9/11, he was briefed and he was told the United States was going to go to war against 7 countries in the next 5 years. When I read that, or when I saw the interview with him, I just went, holy cow, are we going to make enemies out of everybody? And, you know, quite bluntly, we've been at constant war since 9/11, and every war that we fought, we lost. That's dumb. You walk into a bar and start a fight, and you're still fighting 18 years later. You lost. Time to walk out of the bar. Stop being such a jerk.
But we don't. We keep on fighting, and Donald Trump, when he ran for president, suggested he wanted to get away from that. He wanted to pull out of Iraq and out of other places. And yet we're still there. Doesn't seem like he wanted to or had the will or what. What happened?
No, here's what happened, and this is truly terrifying. He's being attacked by the military industrial complex, by the Department of Justice, by the FBI, by the CIA, by the NSA, by CNN, because he said we need to stop fighting wars. They've been attacking him since well before the election. And this is an ongoing coup d'etat. I watch CNN on my computer, and I go, my God, I mean, how can these people be so anti-American? Now, I am not a Trump fan. I think the man's a blithering idiot. But so was George Bush. You know, we've had lots of blithering idiots. We could survive that. We cannot survive treason from within. And that's exactly what we have now. Now, all of the things in the book, there are some important things about debt and about student debt and about the medical system and about the banking system. But the most dangerous to freedom in America is the military-industrial complex. And we either turn into a total police state or we make the changes that we need to make now.
Yeah, we'll talk about those changes. I just wondered if the military is supposed to keep us safe. Ron Paul was suggesting that it was making us less safe. You might remember when Ron Paul suggested he was almost booed off the stage when he was one of the Republican candidates for president. Ron suggested that in 9/11, and he picked this up from a CIA report. Somebody in the CIA reported that the reason they came over here is because we're over there.
Yeah.
And of course, that was heresy to most people, and the Republicans basically booed him off the stage. They didn't boo him off the stage, but they would have liked to have. And he said, well, you know, I sort of think maybe we should do unto others as we would have them do to us, kind of the golden rule. And they just hissed and booed. They booed him off. It really was just, I remember Giuliani and the others, they just really, and so, I think all those people believed that Ron was totally wrong. That just isn't true. But it seems so logical, Bob. Well, it seems so logical. If the Chinese were in the Gulf of Mexico and running bombing missions over us, I don't know if we would like that too much.
Of course. Now, here's what's interesting. Do you know what Ron Paul's military background is?
Yeah, he was a physician. I think in the Navy or the Air Force. I can't remember.
He was a flight surgeon with a fighter outfit. I met him in Arizona a few years ago. We sat down and talked for about an hour because he would have been a flight surgeon at the exact same time I was a fighter pilot. And the funny thing is, he was an obstetrician. Okay, yes. And you don't have many pregnant people in fighter squadrons. Now you do, but you didn't.
Yeah, now you might. Yeah. So you would agree with that the reason they came over here, at least one of the reasons they might have come over here and bombed us on 9/11 was because we were constantly bombing people over there.
100%. I mean, here's what's crazy. You cannot do what we have been doing to the rest of the world for essentially 70 years and have people not notice. We have been at war with Muslims. Now, I'm not religious. I'm not Jewish. I'm not Catholic. I'm not Buddhist. I'm not Methodist. I'm not Muslim. But certainly I see why they believe that we're at war with the religion. And I think that's a very dangerous thing to do.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably right. That when you start fighting wars for religion, it's the outcome usually isn't very good. So, Bob, in terms of the expenditures, do you have any idea what we spend for the military, and how big a part of it is our budget? And are there parts of the military, perhaps, that we're not even told about, money that gets spent? Because who really keeps track of what the government's doing?
Strange. Well, the military-industrial complex does. Okay, we don't have any idea. There is so much misinformation and bad information. There are people who supposedly show that we've got $20 trillion in debt on military spending. It doesn't make any difference, okay? The United States is bankrupt, okay? We're not maybe bankrupt. We're absolutely bankrupt, and we have to do something about that. The easy and best solution is to do something about the military-industrial complex. But the very first thing that we have to do is to educate voters, to educate the citizens so they understand. I mean, I read this book, I just went, holy cow, this guy has really got an understanding of a lot of this stuff. And this is a book everybody should read. You don't have to agree with it. Everybody's put up with many years of propaganda, and there's stuff in there that I don't particularly agree with. However, it does make you think. We need to discuss this, and I cannot be more adamant. We're bankrupt. We're going to go into hyperinflation. The banks are going to close. Now, nobody in the mainstream media is going to say that, and even most of the people in the alternative media are not going to say that because they self-censor. Well, I don't want to say that because people will think I'm crazy. Right. Guys, you can add and subtract. You can realize that the world cannot pay $258 trillion in debt. There is not enough money in the world. Therefore, we need to do something about it. Okay?
Well, now, I think they don't understand economics well enough, Bob. So you were mentioning Kamala Harris suggesting $2,000 a month to every family or every person. I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter. She doesn't think about what it costs. They have, because of our situation, owning the world's reserve currency, we've been able to get away with this for a long time. And it seems as though we can that money does grow on trees, or that it grows from digits, right? So
yeah,
this is the education that I think, but Bob, don't you think that we're going to have an education, a very ruthless education very soon, because as you point out, the math just doesn't work.
Soon? It's not soon, Jay. It's been going on for months and years. Yeah. In California, I think the figure it's $1,000. You can walk into a store, and if you steal something that's less than $1,000, they don't even call the cops.
Right.
Okay, the cops aren't going to come. That is Harris, and that's what she has created. If you walk down the streets of San Francisco, and San Francisco used to be the most magnificent city in the United States, you find nothing but drug addicts and shit on the streets. Now, that's what we've turned into. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying it's already happened.
It's already here, yeah.
Look at Portland. Look at Seattle. Look at BLM. Do you think things are going to get better? They're not going to get better. They're going to get worse. Yeah. We need to educate ourselves. We need to figure out what's going on. We need to come up with some real solutions. We need some real leaders, quite bluntly. When I look at Biden and I look at Trump and think, my God, who on earth concluded these two represent the best and the brightest in the United States? I'm sorry, they don't represent me.
All right, Bob, we're going to have to leave it go at that. And when we come back, a couple more issues besides the military-industrial complex I want to touch on, and then start to talk a little bit about what some of the solutions or what some of the changes need to be in order to put things back in order.